Flanny friends. So, Mortal Kombat 1 was announced, and not just announced, but it's coming out relatively soon. As a fan of the series for quite some time, I wanted to talk a little bit about the game's history and some of my favorite moments from the franchise, and also take a look forward to what we might expect from the coming game while addressing some of the issues that are already being talked about as well. Before we get into it, why don't you
get over here
and consider liking and subscribing to help me avenge the death of my brutally murdered family. Now, let's get on to it. Starting off, I love fighting games. I just love everything about them, and they have been a part of my life ever since I was a little Flandy. And I spent more than my fair share of quarters at the MK2 arcade machines. One of my fondest memories was me and some friends staying up all night and sleeping in shifts, playing through Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks in a single night. And one of my favorite games was Mortal Kombat Armageddon, which did some unique things that, sadly, I don't think have ever been replicated in the series. The first is their creative fighter, which was really in-depth for the time and something I would absolutely love to see come back to the franchise. In it, you could literally customize everything from their fighting style, of which there was so many it was sort of mind-boggling, to what type of sword or other weapon they could wield, to the stance of said weapon, to their projectiles, and their charge abilities. All fully customizable, and it allowed for some insane combinations. I even remember that you could write an ending story for your character for when you beat arcade mode with them, and I remember this because I'm fairly certain I gave mine a super dark and edgy ending at the time because little Flandy was a bit cringe, not gonna lie. The other thing that I loved about the game was the Conquest mode, which put you in the perspective of a new character and allowed you to actually travel through the MK world. While undoubtedly silly by today's standards, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It had an interesting story and changed between a bit of a beat-em-up game like Shaolin Monks, only then to transition into a more traditional MK fight when it came to fight the heavy hitters of the series. One cool thing was that this is a mode where you unlock a lot of stuff for customization, and one of the secrets I remember from the game was having to be in a specific spot at a specific time to challenge and fight a zombie Liu Kang to unlock him. I would love seeing something like this in the current series, though I will admit, with the way they have been handling the story mode, this type of conquest doesn't seem quite as needed as they have found a nice pace of storytelling while keeping the combat and heart of the game intact. Which, speaking of the story, let's take a look at MK1. So some of you may be confused as to what the hell is currently going on, so I'll give you just a tiny glimpse into the madness of the new era of Mortal Kombat, which can pretty much be summed up with new realities and multiverse. After the past was rewritten in MK9, it set up a new reality of sorts and eventually led us to MK11, where Raiden gave up his god powers to Liu Kang, making him the new fire god Liu Kang. Which, I can't remember if it was stated why a lightning god's powers gave Liu Kang fire god powers, but whatever. Liu Kang then defeats Kronika, who is a keeper of time, and essentially uses his powers and hers to create a new timeline of peace, which isn't going to last for long in an MK world.
My heart longs for a simpler life. The kind one cannot have being the chosen one, let alone an elder god. What Kitana and I would not give for those simple pleasures. Perhaps in another timeline, they could be ours.
That being said, I'm excited for it. For one, this is going to be a next-gen game. No PS4 or Xbox One models, though there will be a Switch model, which we will get into in a bit. For now, I just want to focus on the good and the possibilities of what this game could bring. Starting off, the release date. It was just announced and we only have a 4-month wait for it, which is kind of refreshing, isn't it? In this day and age, we hear about games and they are announced years in advance, and typically are not what they are promised by the time we get them. So it's sort of nice to just have a reveal and a date that is a short ways away, and I kind of miss that. I miss the surprise reveals where all of a sudden you just hear about a new game and, oh look, it's almost here, because we don't get that now. Everything's just revealed to us way too far, either by leakers or by the company themselves. But hopefully, with this, it should mean that there shouldn't be any delays or pushbacks because it should already practically be done by this point. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. As for the game itself, it looks like we might get a fresh new start for characters like Scorpion, who is not Scorpion in this, but rather Hanzo. I'm really hoping that if they go this route, they don't give these characters new life just to return them to their original identities and places by the end of the game. I have no doubt that Scorpion as we know him will return. But I rather like the idea of Scorpion and Sub-Zero working together. They've shown it a few times in other games, and I think it's just a really neat concept, so I'd love to see more of it, and I hope it's not all undone too quickly. We've also got some of the DLC characters that have already been leaked, and I'm really excited for them as well. The two big ones are going to be Omni-Man from Invincible and Homelander from The Boys. As a big fan of both of the series, I think that these characters will fit in just fine with the roster. Though, let's be honest, in a fight between Omni-Man and Homelander, there's a bit of a clear winner.
KO!
Homelander doesn't stand a chance. But I'm still excited to see what these guys will be able to do and bring to the game. Now, it wouldn't be a Flandy review or rant without some bad news, so let's get into the bad I'm worrying about this game. The first being that microtransactions are coming back, which a lot of fans, myself included, did not like about MK11. While I applaud the dedication to customization in the game, making the crypt randomized was a bit off-putting to most, and the game at launch felt very grindy, seemingly encouraging players to spend money to skip portions of the grind. Up until this point in MK's history, the crypt has always been set in stone. Sort of, pun intended. Go to X and Y coordinates, open the chest, and you will get the item. Usually a day or two after the game's release, they'd have a complete list, so you could get the items you wanted first, and then unlock the rest later. My hope is that they will have learned from this and utilize monetization in a better way, but seeing as how all we have so far is a game trailer and release date, it's hard to say. The other thing which is sort of curious is despite this being a truly next-gen game, we aren't getting a Switch release, which is not bad on its own. I'm glad Switch players will be able to enjoy it, but it's also going to be a $70 release. Which, so far, the only $70 release for the Switch is Tears of the Kingdom, which is arguably definitely worth it for the price. I mean, the game is utterly amazing. But even MK11 that came to the Switch was a bit of a pared-down experience for it. So it's one thing to charge $70 for a next-gen experience, but charging it for a pared-down version just doesn't seem right. Like I said though, we'll have to wait and see for more details, but I don't see how they could bring the full experience to Switch if they're not bringing it to the last-gen consoles for Sony or Microsoft. Either way, I'm still honestly excited. While I'm more of a Soul Calibur fan when it comes to fighting games, there's no telling when we'll get a new one of those, so I'm looking forward to the new Mortal Kombat, and will definitely be picking up when it comes out. I'm hoping to pick up streaming when Diablo 4 comes out, and depending on how that goes, might do some Mortal Kombat. At least to go through the story. I guess we'll just see how it goes. That's all I've got for now, Plenty friends. Do you have a go-to fighting game? And if you are a Mortal Kombat fan, which is your favorite game in the franchise? And more importantly, who's your favorite fighter? For me, Sub-Zero all day, every day. Until next time, guys. Bye!